What's up, guys? Back with another Borderlands 2 countdown, and today I figured we could go over some things to do in Borderlands 2 after you've beaten the game. Now, before we start, I'm mostly going to be sticking with things you can do inside of Borderlands 2. So this list will include things that you can do during Borderlands 2's endgame, as well as after your very first playthrough. But I guess without further ado, these will be the top 10 things you can do in Borderlands 2 after you beat the game, starting now. Number 10. Play through Borderlands 2 again. So upon completing Borderlands 2 on normal mode, you can play through the game again on True Vault Hunter mode, which allows the player to play through the game with increased difficulty and with new types of enemies. For example, in the very first playthrough of Borderlands 2, you would mostly just encounter psychos that were vulnerable to fire weapons. However, during your second playthrough for True Vault Hunter mode, you can encounter a new type of psycho that wears armor and requires you to deal corrosive damage to it. And beyond True Vault Hunter mode, you have Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, which allows the player to play through the game at an even higher level difficulty, where enemies have quadruple health, slag deals triple damage as opposed to double damage, and enemies stay slagged much longer than they otherwise would in normal and True Vault Hunter modes. I would say if you're looking for an additional challenge, playing through Borderlands 2 again on a higher level difficulty is the way to go. Not only will you be able to level up faster, but you can experience a selection of newer and more difficult enemies like rabid skags, rabid stalkers, demongs, armored psychos, and many other enemies. Number 9. Play through the DLC content. Assuming you haven't tried any of the DLC, something you could do would be to play through many of Borderlands 2's DLC expansions. There are 4 major campaign DLCs. Those are Captain Scarlet and her Pirate's Booty, Torg's Campaign of Carnage, Sir Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt, and Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragonkeep DLC. And the Dragonkeep DLC in particular is really cool because it's a D&D themed DLC, which involves the player rescuing a queen from the handsome sorcerer and to restore peace to the surrounding lands. There is also the Digistruct Peak DLC, which adds an entirely new area, and provided the player is playing through the content at level 72, you can gain overpowered levels, which are essentially enhanced difficulty levels beyond Ultimate Vault Hunter mode that involve enemies that are over-leveled when compared to the player's level of 72. Plus, each overpowered level allows the player to use weapons that are far more powerful. For example, overpowered 8 weapons are the equivalent of level 80 weapons, overpowered 1 weapons are the equivalent of level 73 weapons, and you get the idea. So, if you've beaten the game and you're unsure what to do, I would recommend that you check out some of the DLC for Borderlands 2. Number 8. Start a new character. Once you've beaten Borderlands 2 on any difficulty, you could always play through the game again on a brand new character. Let's say you played through the game the first time as Maya. Well, then you could play through Borderlands 2 again as either Axton, Zero, or Salvador. And if you own the Handsome Collection or have all of the DLC, you could play as either Gage or Krieg. While you would be playing through the same content again, playing through the game as a different character will allow you to experience the game differently. For example, Maya uses phase lock and can be built for healing other characters or to optimize phase lock. Alternatively, you could play somebody like Zero, who can be played as a heavy melee user, a sniper, or as a conventional gun user like all of the other Vault Hunters. Krieg may actually be one of the more unique choices, as it's possible to play through the game without using any weapons other than Krieg's melee attacks, both the conventional melee attacks as well as from his action skill, Buzzax Rampage. But if you have beaten Borderlands 2 before and you're wondering what to do, try to beat Borderlands 2 again on a different character. Each Vault Hunter plays a little bit differently, and you might find that you like your second character more than your first. Number 7. Do some side quests. After you've beaten Borderlands 2, it might be a good idea to do many of the side quests that you haven't completed. Not only will side quests provide the player additional experience, but side quests also provide the player with the opportunity to occasionally get quest reward weapons for certain quests. In fact, some side quests will provide you with weapons that are vastly superior to many of the other weapons that you can loot from the surrounding area. And something you will want to do is save some side quests after you've beaten the game. This way, the weapons end up scaling to your character's level. At the very least, if you don't plan on going beyond True Vault Hunter mode, it might be a good idea to wait and do side quests until after you've beaten True Vault Hunter mode. That way, you can get level 50 versions of the weapons that you intend to use. And for Ultimate Vault Hunter mode and higher, you can reset your playthrough, and thus you don't necessarily have to wait until you beat the game. Still, you can use the resets to acquire higher level or superior versions of the quest reward weapons that you like to use. And I can guarantee that if you play Borderlands 2 enough, there will be quest reward weapons that you may want a few copies of. So if you've beaten the game and you're unsure what to do, go ahead and play through some of the side quests, because many are entertaining and they also can provide you with really nice weapons. Number 6. Farm for gear/weapons. While some may not like the grind that comes with farming for weapons, farming is something that many Borderlands players do after reaching maximum level. And while you could farm for items at any level, you're going to make the best use of your time waiting until maximum level to farm for the legendaries that you intend to use. Otherwise, you could end up farming for the same items more than once, which may or may not be something that you want to do. And there's a lot of really great gear that you can acquire in Borderlands 2 by farming specific bosses for their loot. As an example, you could farm either Hunter Hellquest or the Treants for the Bee Shield, which is a really powerful shield, or if you want a really nice weapon, you could farm Savage Lee or the Torg vending machines from the Campaign of Carnage DLC for an Unkempt Herald. Or maybe you want to kill Doc Mercy several times just to see if you can get an Infinity Pistol. Farming is something that you're definitely going to want to do once you've completed Borderlands 2, and especially once you've reached maximum level. Plus, you may find that it's fun to try and collect every single legendary, seraph, or pearlescent weapon in the game. Number 5. Kill some raid bosses. Once you've beaten Borderlands 2 on True Vault Hunter mode, you can take the opportunity to confront some of Borderlands 2's raid bosses. For the vanilla game, you can fight a raid boss named Terramorphous, who is basically a large thresher boss that you will have to kill, and upon doing so, you can receive a bunch of rare loot. In fact, Terra also has a couple of unique and legendary drops that are unique to him, such as the legendary Hide of Terramorphous Roid Shield and the legendary Slayer of Terramorphous class mod. And you've also got some unique weapons like the Teeth of Terramorphous Shotgun, as well as the Breath of Terramorphous Grenade mod. Alternatively, you have Vermivorous, which requires 4 players to spawn and appears after a Varkid enemy has evolved a certain number of times. Regardless, Vermivorous can drop additional legendary class mods that are unique to each character, as well as the Norfleet rocket launcher and the Nasty Surprise grenade mod. And provided that you have the DLC for Borderlands 2, you can also kill the raid bosses that appear in the campaign DLCs, as these bosses can be fought after completing the DLC, regardless of the difficulty. So you could beat Torg's Campaign of Carnage in normal mode, and then you can fight Pyro Pete in normal mode. And the DLC raid bosses have the ability to drop Seraph gear, which is a higher tier of rarity than legendary, but the weapons themselves can be stronger or weaker than most legendaries. You may also find that you like to speed kill some raid bosses, and there is a community of people that like to do that over on the Gearbox forums. So if that's something you think that you might be interested in, I recommend that you go and check that out as well. Number 4. Check out some Easter eggs. So Borderlands 2 is jam-packed full of various Easter eggs that are worth exploring. While I won't be going over every single Easter egg that appears, there are a couple of notable ones that are worth discussing. In particular, you have the Minecraft Easter egg that appears in the Caustic Caverns, complete with its own selection of creeper-type enemies. And there's also a more elaborate Easter egg involving the Lord of the Rings, where the player must acquire a special item at the very beginning of the game and travel all the way to the Iridium Blight volcano on foot to give the specific item to an NPC named Geary, who is meant to represent Golem. And then if you let him attack you, he will take the item and he will jump into the lava. After that, the 3 racks will appear, dropping 3 loot chests, and these 3 racks represent the 3 great eagles that appear at the end of the Lord of the Rings movies. The point is that there are a lot of really great Easter eggs that are worth looking into and discovering for yourself. Some of them, like the Lord of the Rings Easter egg, are actually quite elaborate. And if you're curious about Borderlands 2 Easter eggs, I recommend checking out the Batman Easter egg located in the fridge, the Dark Souls Easter egg located in the Caustic Caverns, the Double Rainbow Easter egg located in the Highlands, the Giant Teddy Bear Easter egg located in the Wildlife Exploitation Preserve, and the Tanis Easter egg that's located in Sawtooth Cauldron. Now, there are also even more Easter eggs in some of the game's DLCs, but I'll leave those for you to discover yourself. Number 3. Self-imposed challenge playthroughs. Something you could do is impose certain types of challenges on yourself. So perhaps instead of starting a new playthrough, you could play through the game under certain conditions that you impose on yourself. One type of playthrough that's popular is a allegiance playthrough, where you take a specific weapons manufacturer like Hyperion Dollar Bandit and only use weapons and items that are available from that specific manufacturer. And then there's another type of playthrough that's popular, and that is a hardcore or One Life to Live playthrough, and in this mode, the goal is to play through the entire game without dying. And this challenge in particular can prove to be both pretty fun and also really challenging, because you may find yourself in some stressful situations that are really hard to get out of. On some level, the only limits here would be your imagination when it comes to the kinds of challenges you can impose on yourself. Maybe you will do a no weapons playthrough, or maybe you will do a pistols only or shotguns only type playthrough. At the end of the day, it's really up to you. Number 2, try downloading some weapon mods for PC. While this is something you can't really do on the console versions of Borderlands 2, you can download and set up the PC version to enable player-created mods. While I will provide a link in the description that goes over how to do this setup, once you've got everything set up, you can essentially go to the Borderlands Community Mod GitHub page, which will also be linked in the description. You can copy the code into a text file and then execute the code in the text file to get specific changes to in-game weapons. And while these mods mostly just modify what already exists in-game, players have actually created some really cool and interesting mods using this method. For example, there are a couple of mods that aim to recreate weapons that appear in the very first Borderlands, and there are also some mods that recreate the weapons that appear in Borderlands the pre-sequel. The coolest thing though are the custom weapon mods the player can use, which modify existing weapons into entirely different weapons that may have entirely different weapon properties. Ultimately, if this sounds interesting to you, I recommend that you check out some of the links in the description for more information. And just remember that modding this way is exclusive to the PC version. Number 1. Mess around with glitches in out-of-bounds areas. While I wouldn't recommend that you do this in the presence of others in multiplayer lobbies, Borderlands 2 does have a number of glitches that can be fun to mess around with after you've beaten the game. For example, if you manage to obtain a legendary Flak shotgun and a Torgue rocket launcher, you can switch between the two to greatly enhance the damage of the Flak shotgun's projectiles. Alternatively, you can obtain a Morningstar sniper rifle, fire every shot until you empty the magazine, and then just as the reload animation is about to complete, fully reloading the weapon, you can swap to a different weapon. And if you repeat this enough, you can get the Morningstar's special effects to copy onto other weapons, which will massively increase their critical hit damage. There are also a number of locations like the Bloodshot Stronghold and the Friendship Gulag where it's possible to go out of bounds, and provided that you have a Bada Boom rocket launcher that's a low enough level to not hurt you, you could feasibly rocket jump and go to areas the developers previously didn't intend for the player to go. And my favorite of these is the Friendship Gulag, because you can walk through significant parts of the dust without enemy spawns, and you can walk off the edge in the dust without any consequences where you would normally encounter a death wall. If you've done a lot of the things that have already been mentioned on this list, you may find it fun to try and mess around and get the game to glitch out, or go to out-of-bounds areas that you're not supposed to go to. But alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.